So this is Smoothie again, and I am back. Just to let you know, please subscribe. I want to go ahead and get my subscribers up so I can have the ability to do live YouTube live videos, which would be great to bring people into my performances and different things that I'll be doing that I have planned for the future. So yeah, help me out. But anyway, you know, uh, so yeah, Smoothie here. Just a little more on Tupac. Like I said, it was just stream of consciousness the last time, as well as now. So off the cuff was the term I used. But I thought about a couple other things dealing with the T-Pain situation, and I think there has been talk of Tupac not being the best lyricist prior to this T-Pain thing, maybe the past 20 years or so. But the thing is, um, I don't think that was going on while Tupac was alive. Understand, when he was alive, he was one of the most popular MCs at the time for a reason, right? Like and this was without the social media that exists now. This was Internet 1.0, right? You could not just Google. There was no Google, first of all. There was no Google. Hello. There was no Facebook. There was not even MySpace, let alone a Facebook, a Meta, or a Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, any of that, right? There were no YouTube Shorts, none of that. Vine did not exist, and it doesn't now anymore either. But this is all before that. That's kind of like, it's almost like if T-Pain had said Madonna would not be popular now, or Cher would not be popular now, or um, Barbara Streisand would not be popular now, or something. Like, what is the context? You're taking someone from one context, a different time, and then putting them in now without giving the proper context. What are again, like I kept saying in the first video, what is the criteria? Or what are the criteria? What are you judging by? What is the metric? What is the rubric? What is the grading, the standard? I mean, just basic things, right? If you don't have any of that, you do not have anything. You are not talking about anything. And I just, I have no idea. Maybe, I do not know. Hey, T-Pain has more followers than I do, right? He's okay, but everybody can make some mistakes, right? Everybody can say something and realize that might not have been correct. That might be inaccurate. I want to know if I'm being inaccurate, but don't just tell me I'm wrong because I think so, or because it feels wrong. It's like, okay, give me some facts, something objective that I can look at so I can say, okay, and then I'll admit you're right. Yeah, I was incorrect. But as far as him not being lyrical, again, what are you considering lyrics? What are you considering lyrical? So I think that's something that may have come from people that really were jealous of him and hated him after he died. Because who was saying that when he was alive? Correct me now. Maybe somebody was. But if it was someone he insulted, then, there's probably a motive there where they're just saying it out of anger or some other reason, right? But I mean, if there was someone that was just objectively saying that, I mean, I do not remember Melly Mel saying anything about Tupac not being lyrical. This is the guy that had the infamous, verse in The Message. I mean, go back and listen to The Message. I like World War III myself, where he talks about, all the imagery in that song. Um, it's so visual, and Tupac was definitely a full storyteller. He was an actor. His lyrics were visual. His lyrics were heartfelt, heart touching, came from the heart. Touched your heart if you have a heart. Maybe some people don't have hearts, so it doesn't touch them. I've been in other countries, and people that have very little money would start giving me things because of how they felt from their hearts. And I did not ask for those things, but they would give me things. And it makes me think about, what was it, the widow? There's a story of a widow, I think, that gave her last money to Jesus, and he said that was the greatest gift, or the most important gift, because she gave and she did not have anymore. But other people gave and they still had, even if they gave way more than she did. So, I mean, there's always context that's necessary. Who, what, where, why, how. I mean, come on, this is basic, like, first grade. Like, like, you're telling a story, like, set the scene, the actors, act one, scene one, go. Like, where are we? Who are we? What is said? Now the monologue, the dialogue, go from there, right? I mean, it's super basic stuff. But the thing that complicates it is people will just go from what they hear, and they will not investigate the words. Like, what is a lyricist? What do lyrics mean? What is a lyric? If you look up lyric and it tells you another word for, some poetry. Okay, well, if you're calling Tupac a poet but not a lyricist, what does that tell you? Check for yourself. I'm like LeVar Burton, you do not have to take my word for it. In fact, please do not take my word for it. But if you're going to say I'm incorrect, then please show me how I can find it for myself. Because if you're just saying it and I'm just supposed to believe you, we don't need belief. We need some. I don't need to believe my house is on a foundation that's level. Let's just get a level and test it. Test it. Is it on the level? Is the bubble right there in the middle? Is it in the middle or not? I know there's different types of levels, but I'm just saying, you can get a plumb bob, anything. Heck, if you can look at it and tell it's crooked, that might be a sign right there. But if you can already if I can look from a mile away and say, that's crooked, before I even go up to, the foundation and test it. If it's real, it should be testable. And if it's real and it's correct, then the test should come out and show that it's correct. It's called ask, seek, and knock. That's the scientific method, right? You test it. You check it. You get your results. And you compare that. You keep doing it. You do that somewhere else. You get the same results. Okay, it works. You keep doing it. You get the same results. At least you know that much. But yeah, there was that as far as him saying, as far as the lyricism thing, but also T-Pain, something I did not touch on the first video, was T-Pain mentioned that Tupac was the only rapper that had a platform. Like, excuse me? I guess he's suggesting that because in some ways it's easier now for other people to get on. Look, I'm on YouTube doing this, right? Here we go. But it's easier, but it's not easier in some ways, because each type of technology gives its own advantages and disadvantages, okay? Because now you can say it's easier to get on, but now there's like a whole bunch of people on, and it's still harder. Like, if you can name me everybody that's on YouTube, then go ahead, everybody on SoundCloud. Like, wait a minute now. There's thousands, maybe millions of people just on SoundCloud. So now you have to fight through all that. But as far as Tupac being the only one that had a platform, this guy's acting like you had... Do you understand? And granted, Queen Latifah was already making the transition into acting, right? But Tupac was by no means the only MC who had a platform. At that time, you had East and West Coast acts. You also had some Southern acts too, right? So you had the Ghetto Boys came out before Tupac. They were from the South, right? So, but you had, even just on the West Coast, you already had Snoop Dogg, Coolio. Like, you had people like that. You had Ice Cube, right? You had, and then again, we can really check it, right? And we can go year by year. I mean, Tupac only had like a 5-year career, which is still freaking amazing. He did all this in 5 years while he was doing movies and other things, all at the same time, in court cases and everything. So, a 5-year career, say 91 to 96. Amazing. And did like 50 years of work in like 25 years. I mean, that's arbitrary, but again, we can have some metric and then see if it is 50 years worth of work, right? But you had people, first of all, you had Biggie on the East Coast, right? You even had, remember, Little Kim, uh, what's her name? The Il Nana, you know who I'm talking about, Foxy Brown. You had, you know, a Tribe Called Quest was out. Of course, you had Bone Thugs and Harmony. I mean, this is all going on at the same time, right? Like, Tupac was not. You had magazines like Vibe, right, that were talking about these different rappers. And then don't forget, you also had like local and regional hits. But as far as national, international, all these people I've named, they were, you still had Heavy D was still making some hits. What is that? I got nothing but love for you, baby. Yeah, I mean, you had, some of the people that had been around before Tupac that were still making some hits, but were starting to go down in popularity to some degree. But you also had Bone Thugs and Harmony, and even from New York, you had like a Tribe Called Quest, but you had Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, and they had like 8,000 members. So, you had. My mom starts asking me how to name the members, and then 3 minutes later, I'm still naming them. I'm like, oh yeah, and you had this guy, so, and then everybody else that was connected with them and everything. So, they were a real clan. They might as well have been called Wu-Tang City because they were a whole city, right? But those are just some, and again, this is off the top of my head, but you had other people that were popular. Like, look at anybody that was making hits at the same time. Look at the charts. Look at the Billboard charts, for example. Just look at who was on there, and then go to what they call the rap section or whatever. Like, you see who else was out and who else had songs. Like, Tupac was definitely not the only person with a platform. And we're only looking at rap, right? Like, remember, Michael Jackson was still famous, right? You had other people, Janet Jackson. There were plenty of other famous singers and things, right? So, I mean, for a time, Tupac was around the same time as Kurt Cobain and Nirvana being famous. I was in the area where Selena was famous. So you you had all of these. God, I mean, that's Quintanilla Perez, not Gomez, by the way. Quintanilla Perez. Selena, or Selena, or Salinas, as some say. So, the Selena I refer to, but I don't know what he's talking about as far as platform. And wasn't T-Pain like 9 years old or something when Tupac was killed? So, I mean, he was actually around, right? I'm going to say this too. Don't leave out one-hit wonders or two-hit wonders, or, groups that had, just a few hit songs. I mean, because you always have that. And there were some really, really popular songs going on in other groups. And I just think it's very interesting how Tupac was in a movie called Juice, and he looked up to Eric B. and Rakim, and Eric B. and Rakim had the song Juice on the Juice soundtrack. And then Rakim basically retires. And during his retirement, like Tupac's whole career happens. And then Rakim comes back with Guess Who's Back, I think was that song. And, the dun 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 bum 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 da 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 da, control the crowd. So I was going wild with it. That. Hope I don't get copyright claimed, but it's just very interesting. That would have been interesting if Rakim had not retired to have seen that, because Rakim, he may have become more famous than Tupac. But again, I'm just talking about possibilities. I do not know, because that is not what happened, right? But in a lot of ways, Tupac was like, to me, seemed like a second Rakim, and then he did his thing, then Rakim came back. So, it's very, very interesting. But that had nothing to do with T-Pain's thing. But all I'm saying is you need to know the who, where, why, how. You need to know the context. You need to understand the technology that existed at the time. This was not a time when Tupac was doing his thing. You did not have Genius, which used to be Rap Genius, but that wasn't even around yet. You did not have the ability on the internet to just look up someone's song lyrics. You could not just look up the liner notes and find out who all was on the thing. You had to buy the CD, cassette tape, whatever album, the actual album, like vinyl. You had to buy something and then read it, unless you found it somewhere else. It was a different time, even though it wasn't that long ago, but it was long ago, because again, some of the people who've been popular within the last, say, 10 years or so were not even born, or were just born. Right? So they grew up in a whole different type of technology. I know people that had ice boxes, not even refrigerators, right? So you understand, that are still alive now. I never had an ice box. I always lived where there was a refrigerator. So, the people who, there was no caller ID, people who did not have telephones yet. This has been, the technology has changed, right? I mean, now my phone tells me where someone's calling from. That wasn't going on about 5 years ago, at least not on my phone. So you have to understand the technological differences. There was no Minecraft. There was no Roblox. 3D graphics really were not even really a thing that existed. You don't understand, unless it was some big budget movie. So, Industrial Light and Magic, or somebody that did something. So, it's different. And without understanding all of that, there's no way. And that just goes to the fact that a lot of people do not understand words and language and history. And in the United States, they do not have to, because in the United States, people can get things, a certain quality of life, without having to work for them as hard, in some cases, as in a lot of other countries. In a lot of other countries, it's darn near impossible, unless you come from a certain group, to even get, say, a house to own. And I would say it's hard enough in the United States, but still, people from the United States take a lot for granted. And I get it. If that's what your experience is and that's what you are used to, I get that. But wherever you're from, and I'm from the United States, so, I'm just stating what is, not to be putting it down, but because I want to see it better, and I'm a realist, and people have to learn how to find out. Otherwise, they will not know. If you never find out and learn, you will not know. But now, wisdom would suggest, if you do not know, then do not speak on it, because you do not know. But what has happened is with social media, and even before that, I can definitely go before that. But social media has greatly impacted the fact that everybody's opinions now can be shared, and whatever people find the most attractive, whether it's true or not, not what's the most true, but what is the most attractive, as in what they want to believe, then that's what will get promoted and thought of as reality, whether it is real or not. And again, a lot of things, like there were so many people that started coming out saying things about Tupac after he died, because when he was alive, they could not touch him. They could not touch him because he would put them in in his songs and talk about him. Like, hey, you said this and this, but I mean, there's songs where he's just naming different people. You know, it's like you can learn about different groups that were out at the time Tupac was out by listening to his songs. If they didn't have a platform, then why was he mentioning them? What is he talking about? He worked to get his platform. Don't get me wrong. And if he had one of the most popular platforms, it wasn't like, that's like, say, if T-Pain has one of the most popular platforms right now, then he doesn't deserve it or something. No, like Tupac worked to get what he got. And I don't know. Come on, people. It's just, can we just, if we're going to talk about it, again, like I said in my first video on this topic, well, the last long form one, it is not, it's just not necessary to talk about things without having some type of actual basis. Otherwise, it's just nonsense. And maybe T-Pain is not concerned about that. I do not know. But again, I am very interested to see what will come out of this. But whatever happens, I hope T-Pain learns and recognizes, or if, hey, I'm just saying this, even though I disagree with what he said, but say he's right. Well, I'd like to hear his explanation, but it has to be known, because, people will say things like, oh, the younger people don't know good music or real music and stuff. But it's like, wait a minute, but aren't you the generation before them? Who taught them if you did not teach them? So I'm saying this also to older people. There's some responsibility, or a lack of responsibility, that needs to be addressed, because you can't blame everything on the younger people. A lot of these younger people, they had to raise themselves using the internet, and the older people did not know how the internet worked. And the younger people, a lot of them did not either. Think about it. If you're intelligent, you'll probably use the internet to make you more intelligent. But if you're a dummy, you're going to use the internet to make you dumber, because you're into dumb stuff. If you're intelligent, you're into intelligent stuff. You can literally teach yourself several languages using the internet right now. Like, no extra cost other than a device and an internet connection. There's people out here who can't even read using the internet. And that's one of the things, maybe people might want to look at, what did Tupac do? Now, if you did exactly what Tupac did, and then you say you're greater than him, then okay, let's do that. Then maybe you are. But Tupac reportedly was reading before he went to school. Were you? I'm saying this not to T-Pain, or not just to T-Pain, but to everybody. Were you reading before you went to school? So how about you do the work that Tupac did? The different literary allusions he was making, the different people that influenced him. It's right there. It's in his work. Even movies too, but I mean, there's different writers from different centuries, multiple centuries and things. So, and then you can tell when he's in his songs, because he puts those topics and those subjects in there. Tupac was a reader. So, people that don't read, they can get information now, because the internet is set up in such a way where people can do video. They do not have to read. They can talk into their phone and pull up a video without knowing how to spell. But Tupac could spell, he could read, he could write. That is, and the work he put in, developing his craft. Check out each album and the progression. That is something that that will make anybody great. Look at any artist and see their progression through their work, their books, their artists, their songs, their albums, their paintings, whatever it is, their sculptures. Look through it, their houses they built, whatever, their designs they made, and you'll see it. It's there. And Tupac did that work. Biggie was said to have been reading before he went to school as well. So if you're not doing that, you're already behind. So you might want to do some more work so you can catch up. Were you doing like, people want to bring up, people like Rakim, I think he would like look through dictionaries for words that rhyme together, right? So now the kids know what a dictionary is. That's that app on their phone, right? Okay, but come on, so there's some more work. I can use a paper dictionary. I can use an internet dictionary. I can use an app. I can do all of it. So maybe you might want to do some work and then see how great you can be. And then you don't have to match up to Tupac or anybody. You'll just be the greatest you. I'll be the greatest me. Thank you.